Scared Stiff from 1945 is a movie that was also known as The Treasure of Fear and also You'll Be the Death of Me Yet. Was a silly comedic murder mystery starring Jack Haley, who you may remember as the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz in 1939. And it also starred the lovely actress Anne Savage, who I remember as a very vicious hitchhiker in the crime film Detour from 1945. Now, look, I sort of randomly discovered this film while searching through old movies to watch. And when I read the summary of this film that goes, the jumpy chess editor at a newspaper accidentally gets involved in some murders at a sleazy tavern run by a pair of bizarre brothers. Well, yeah, that piqued my interest. So I really wanted to check this film out. So I'll give a spoiler-free overview of the film and then offer some closing thoughts. So the story here is that Jack Haley plays the character of Larry. He's a soft-spoken, somewhat bumbling reporter who always seems to be getting on the nerves of the editor at his newspaper and is always just on the verge of being fired, but because he is the nephew of the newspaper boss, he kind of keeps his job. And we find out that he really loves chess, and the theme of chess just kind of plays a big part throughout the film. Well, Larry gets sent off by bus to cover a grape harvest festival at the Grape City Winery. So he's on a bus, and there's some silliness as Larry has got the chessboard set up on his lap, and he is apparently playing chess via mail correspondence with an Eskimo. Well, he mistakenly gets off the bus at the wrong place, the Grape Center, and he's there with his girlfriend, Sally, played by Anne Savage, and she is an antiques dealer. Now, wouldn't you know it, the man who had been seated next to Larry on the bus, well, he's discovered dead, and he is clutching a chess piece in his hand. He had grabbed it earlier while sleeping. So, of course, Larry is blamed. So while everyone is waiting for the sheriff to arrive, the bus passengers are all being held at the Grape Center Winery, Tavern, and Inn. And the owner, Emerson Cook, played by actor Arthur Aylesworth, he just wants everybody to stay put and stay out of trouble. So Sally wants Larry's help in finding a jeweled chess set. And it's called the Marco Polo Men, which had once been owned by Kublai Khan in the 12th century. Now, this set is apparently owned by the twins who live at this winery, Charles and Preston Waldeck, both played by actor Lucian Littlefield. And these two brothers are just completely loopy and apparently haven't spoken to each other in years. I thought it was funny. One is trying to assemble a ship and a bottle, but going about it all the wrong way. So they talk to both of them, and I love how each in their own way does the pull the tablecloth off the table trick. One successfully, and one not so successfully. You know, and the film is just chock full of silliness like this. It's a mystery film, but it's also just loaded with silly slapstick humor and goofiness. Now, also staying at the inn, and adding very little by way of plot, but still pretty funny, we have Preston's grandson, Oliver Waldeck, his actor Buddy Swan, who curiously also played a young Charles Kane in the film Citizen Kane. And he's kind of like the goofy boy genius, one who's fascinated with fear stimuli and so on. So a little bit later, Larry, who's clearly very fond of Sally, tells her that he is worried about getting fired from his newspaper job by his uncle, and he plans to sneak away so that he can do his story. But before he can get away, he's stopped in the hall by the character Flo, played by actress Veda Ann Borg, who conveniently needs help with a chess problem. Of course, he gives an answer to her chess puzzle, but from Flo we find out that she's actually looking for an antique chess set and wondering if he knows anything about it. Okay, yeah, the story's a little convoluted here, but it's all fun. Let's see it through to the end, shall we? Meanwhile, the character Cook shows up, discovers their interaction, and their conversation quickly comes to an end. Larry tries again to make an escape, but he can't get the car started. While working on the car, though, we see a shadowy figure creep up behind him to bop him on the head. But wouldn't you know it, right at that moment, the car horn has a short and continues to go off, scares off the shadowy guy, and it also alerts Cook, so no escape for Larry. Now, Sally, it seems, has been able to find the Kubla Khan chess set and shows it to Larry, which he's impressed by, but we see it's only the white pieces that she managed to get from Preston. So he needs to go and get the black set from Charles, because he has those pieces. So Larry goes with Charles, and he's got the pieces apparently in his secret vault. And this leads to the gag with the Scooby-Doo style revolving door, with the door that accidentally spins, reveals a shadowy figure on the other side, that thing. The mysterious figure then clubs Larry and leaves him on the ground with a trickle of wine coming out of a barrel into his mouth. So obviously when Sally and Preston find him later, he's pretty pickled. Now later, the sheriff arrives, played by actor Paul Hurst. He has a tip that the evil criminal George Deacon Markham, Deacon, of course, played by actor Barton McLean, has escaped and is hiding there at the inn. Now in private, Percy tells Sally and Larry that Markham wants the chess set and that he is there looking for it. Larry tries to sneak out again, and he's carrying a hat box that, for some crazy reason, he thinks contains a decapitated head, but finds out that it's actually just a head of cabbage with a wig that the Oliver kid had left in his room as a prank. Larry doesn't get very far, and he's sent back to his room in time for Markham to arrive with his accomplice Mink, played by the silly actor George E. Stone, who I caught very recently in my last review, The Steel Cage. He usually plays kind of these mousy sidekick characters in these old films. He's a really funny actor. Sally shows up around here, so the bad guys decide to hide, and she's got something to tell Larry. And around here, Flo also knocks on the door with a chessboard, wanting to play, and shares some sugar with Larry too. And oh my goodness, trying to summarize this film, it just gets sillier and sillier as we build to the big conclusion. So you know what, I'm going to stop the summary here. Will Larry find all of the rare chess pieces and escape from the dangerous Markham and Mink characters? Will Larry get together with his sweetheart Sally? Well, I'll let you check out this one for yourself to see. There are a ton of copies of this online. It's clearly in the public domain. However, sadly, most of the copies I was able to find are pretty inferior. But hey, I work with what I can on this channel. If you can find a better copy out there, let me know in the comments. But all of the many copies I found all look kind of fuzzy and blurry. But let me wrap up this film. Scared Stiff from 1945 was directed by Frank McDonald for Pine Thomas Productions and released by Paramount Pictures. But as mentioned, this has fallen into the public domain from what I read. Now, my thoughts on the film is that, yes, this film is pretty ridiculous and probably one you'd watch once and forget about. It's understandable that it lapsed into the public domain, to be honest. But that doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy it. As I say all the time on my channel, I love finding these old, obscure, fun films like this. And I'll be honest, it legitimately had me laughing several times through the film. Yes, it's a mystery film, but it's also loaded with wacky humor and a little romance as well. I mean, the way that everything turns out to be chess-related is kind of a novel idea, if a little bit silly. Jack Haley really has a nice charm to him. He's got this soft-spoken manner, and he's a lot of fun to watch here for his kind of funny mannerisms and expressions. As an actor, he was in around 50 or so films, but obviously his big claim to fame was that of playing the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. While researching his films, he's been in numerous comedies over the years, and there's one I really hope to check out soon. It's called One Body, Too Many from 1944, because it also has Gene Parker and even Bela Lugosi. So definitely got to get that one on my list. And let me tell you, when your introduction to actress Anne Savage is from her monstrous role in the film Detour as the single worst hitchhiker a guy could ever pick up, well, it's so wild to see her in a movie like this one, where she just plays a sweet and charming love interest. And I love seeing that difference. Now, look, if you don't believe me, go and check out the movie Detour from 1945. It's in the public domain and it's free online. I think it's a masterpiece. I've got it linked below, and you'll see a radically different character than the one that Anne Savage plays in this film. But she's a great actress. By the way, this movie is not to be confused with Scared Stiff from 1953, which was a Martin and Lewis movie, which actually looks pretty funny. I've never done a Martin and Lewis film on the channel, but I might have to do that in the future. But let me just wrap this one up. Scared Stiff from 1945 was a silly blend of humor and suspense, with Jack Haley as a funny, chess-loving reporter who finds himself in over his head at a weird winery, with Anne Savage there as his supportive girlfriend. It's just a nutty film. It'll make you laugh, and it's worth checking out.